Okay, what we're looking for in joint venture agreements. Does the ACDBE partner have control of their roles and responsibilities? Here's a typical example of how some of these joint venture agreements read. The ACDBE controls all management aspects and day-to-day operations. Wonderful. But what's the story behind that? Who reports to the ACDBE? How many employees report to the ACDBE? Does the ACDBE have the authority to hire and fire these specific employees? That's what we're looking for in your joint venture agreements. Here's another one. ACDBE will be responsible. Listen to this one. ACDBE will be responsible for employing a manager, responsible for the on-site duties and overall operation under the direction of the non-ACDBE general manager. Does the ACDBE then have control of its manager? No. Those are the type of details we're looking for in your joint venture agreement. ACDBE will be actively involved in day-to-day operations. Again, great, but what does that mean? If the ownership interest is 35%, what does that entail? Does that entail purchasing, product selection and stocking, control over the back of the house or control over the front of the house? How do we determine that 35%? What roles and responsibilities can be identified so that a year from now, when you have your lease and you're operating, we, meaning business diversity, can go do site visits and say, yes, the ACDBE is in charge of the front of the house. Yes, the ACDBE has a management authority over the general manager and can hire and fire. And the general manager knows who the partner in charge is. Those are the type of specifics that we're looking under the day-to-day operations. And finally, one of the commitments or statements that was in the proposal was ACDBE will be responsible for providing product knowledge and on-airport community relationships and partnerships. Can that be measured? Can I go and do a site visit and see whether or not the ACDBE is providing product knowledge? If you're proposing on this proposal, you obviously should have the product knowledge. But it's not measurable. I can't do a site visit on something as broad as provide product knowledge. Airport community relationships and partnerships, on-airport community relationships and partnerships. You know what I think of when I read that? The Walmart greeter. So, roles and responsibilities are so important when you're putting together your joint venture agreement. And I have to say, I did receive one proposal where the joint venture agreement was a draft, and it had a lot of handwritten marks on it. So it looked like a last-minute, oops, I better include something to include something. Take the time to give thought to your joint venture agreements because they are read, and feedback will be provided for you. Lastly, on the ACDBE, there are other key components. Maybe it's on the next slide. Yep. Here's the definition of ACDBE. I won't read it to you, but 51% needs to be owned by an individual that's socially or economically disadvantaged. On the second bullet point, I want to focus. I just provided details as it relates to distinct, clearly defined portion of the work, but there are also 4 other key components in a joint venture agreement. Capital contribution, control, which we just talked about, management, risks, profits of the joint venture. All of these in total have to be commensurate with the ownership interest. And I want to give you a couple of examples as it relates to capital contribution. The joint venture calls for each member to contribute capital commensurate with the ownership interest, however, does not state where the capital is going to come from. So it's great that everybody can contribute to the operations of the concession, but how do I know what your plan is in terms of getting there? Where are you going to get the money from? If there are loans involved in the joint venture, you need to include a draft promissory note. Again, not for our knowledge as much as it is for compliance with the joint venture regulations. Management fees. We had some that were unclear how each partner is going to be compensated for its services. JV agreement states that the non-ACDBE will receive a percentage fee, but the services associated with those fees were not specified. How will the fee be billed and paid, percentage or straight dollar reimbursement? How often will the fee be paid? What documentation regarding the cost will be provided? Exactly what services are going to be provided? So it's just not a matter of submitting the joint venture for the purpose of submitting. I mean, we're looking for you to have given this document thought, have discussed it with your ACDBE partner. Two things before I move on to the MWBE section. Exclusivity is not allowed, not only in your proposal, but in your lease agreement or joint venture agreement. And I had a couple of proposals where the ACDBE was prohibited from entering into discussions with any other firm to propose for food, beverage, or retail facilities at the airport for 1 year following the award of contracts. Not acceptable. It limits the ACDBE's firm. It limits the ACDBE's ability to control its business. Look for these type of language in your joint venture agreement. ACDBEs, I can't stress the importance of looking at these proposals before they're turned into the airport. I can tell you there were several that it was blatantly obvious that the ACDBE had not contributed to the content of the proposal, and probably chances are that the whole team as a whole had not had a second or third set of eyes look at that proposal. The fact that about 75% of the proposers missed the MWBE section